Hello,
Hello.
this is Kirk and Tiffany with Seeking the Glory of God Ministries, and we have a word and a vision, only we're going to do them in reverse order. A word, the vision first,
Yes.
and then the
Kirk's-
word.
Kirk has a vision that he has.
Yeah.
That he's going to share with us, a short vision, and then I have a word to share with us. So.
Yep. So, I just was praying, and I found myself in this, it was like a courtroom, but it was, I'll just read it. So, I see a courtroom, and there are proceedings in progress. This courtroom is arranged differently from what I've seen on TV or whatever. In the front of the room, in the center, is a desk. To the right of the desk is an elongated table, and to the left there are like defendants. Now, the defendants were like it looked actually kind of crowded. So they were all like just standing with people that would escort them in front of the judge and so on. And the center desk has what it appears to be a very decorated military man sitting behind it. I think what I might be describing here is a military tribunal looking thing, but I've never seen one, and so I'm just describing what I saw. I don't know what they would look like, but.
So there's two desks in the room. He's at the center desk, and then there's an elongated desk to his right.
Yes.
And to the left, there's just defendants standing there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like they're ready to be let out,
Right.
and yeah.
Okay.
So. So, and then the table to the right of the desk also has military people sitting behind it, but they don't look as decorated or whatever. I don't know how to describe them. They looked like, people that were maybe had been in the military for some time. They weren't like the real young people or something, but they were not. They didn't have the decorations like the one in the center. So as I watched, just then a defendant is escorted to the center table. A brief description of the charges is read, and the corroborating evidence is produced. Questions are asked by those at the table on the right. Just then, Donald Trump walks up to the table in the center of the room. He bends slightly and speaks to the man at the desk. There is a brief discussion between those seated at the desk, between the seated at the table and the man behind the desk. Then the man at the center desk picks up his gavel, slams it down. Makes this place seems like you could hear a pin drop. There was very quiet. It was very orderly, and it was like military-like, So, and then after the gavel slams down, the defendant with his head hanging low is let out. I did not know any of the defendants or any of the people that had been standing off to the side. None of these people I were anyone that I recognized except Donald Trump. This scenario happens over and over in very rapid succession, and Donald Trump would be involved in some and others not. I understood that he was acting as commander-in-chief, and as such, he had considerable influence regarding what was going on. Each case took a matter of minutes to decide. It was very, very orderly, very quick, and very serious. And there was no fooling around. There was no like I've seen courtroom proceedings before, and the judges and the lawyers would go back and forth with things, and then it was kind of like there was a discussion going on between the lawyer and the judge, maybe, and then, like the defense would present their side and the prosecutor their side, and there was none of that. There was none of that at all. The charges were just read, and some evidence was produced, and the decision was made. The gavel was struck, and the person would go out the other side of the room. That was it.
So the people at the elongated table, they were helping to make the decision with the guy in the center?
Yes.
And Donald Trump, you just saw him come in and out of your view as he wanted to say something about a certain defendant, or he just stood there the whole time?
Nope. He just only appeared a couple of times for like a certain person. Maybe he had something
to say,
or there was something that
he pretty much has the final say, maybe, because as commander-in-chief, he's telling the judge, maybe, or something like that.
I assumed he was allowing the guy to do his job, and yet there was influence, like that commander would have.
Okay.
So it didn't look to me like he was like barking orders. It was just a back and forth discussion, and then
But he's acting as commander-in-chief.
He was. Yep, that's true.
And now, is this something that, or you're not sure, this has happened, is currently happening, or will happen?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But the main point of it was, as far as I can tell, that when this happens, it is going to happen so quick. We won't.
No fooling around.
There's
lawfare and
there's
blah blah.
Right. There are no antics as far as the law goes. It's military.
Like you don't have standing to take this case here.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Some of that baloney. Okay.
Well, everything that you're watching going on in the courts now, it's not going to be that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So we look forward to that. So then this vision, the Lord also has just a short word that He wants to give with it, and He's entitled this expectations. So He says, when you expect something one way, or at a particular time, or even within a length of time, like a certain period of time, and that thing doesn't come, there's the possibility of disappointment, frustration, doubt, or anger. And this is a good place for unbelief to sneak in. This is because you haven't learned to divorce your expectations from your faith. In other words, you would never think of forcing God to do what He does according to your demands, right? Yet, this is exactly what expectations do. You are telling the Lord that He better do this or that according to your expectations, or you won't believe anymore. Like if He doesn't, like for instance, with the return of the trumpet into His position that He rightfully won and whatever, if the Lord doesn't do it by this time, it ought to happen by now because this, because that, then just forget it. The whole thing's off.
Right.
So he says, though, however, when we believe this way, we have expectations. He says it doesn't appear that way to us. We actually feel pretty perfectly justified in our expectations. We feel that they're actually faith, but they're not. And this approach to faith will not work. God has to be God. He will do what He will do according to His good pleasure. And so what God has promised will happen, but it may not happen the way you think it should or in the time frame that you think it should. And those are the expectations you need to let go of. He wants you to believe Him, but He doesn't want you to have expectations that He hasn't told you to have. So,
yeah, it's kind of strange to use that word, I guess, because we know that we're supposed to have fervent expectations of the promises that God has given us.
Yes.
And yet we can't demand that they happen within this time frame, or whatever, what you were describing there is like we have some kind of control over God, or we're trying to cajole him into our expectations.
Correct.
And,
right.
and he's just saying, forget that. It's not going to happen because I'm God and you're not.
Right.
That's really
right. Yes, exactly. So all the promises of the Lord will happen. The prophetic words that he's given, it'll come to pass. But it might not be coming to pass according to the way you expected it to, and according to your time frame. So, we thought the time frame was different too, but you can't, just because you think it has to happen within this, that makes sense.
Right.
Well, God doesn't always make sense, and he has a better plan, and, so if he's not telling you a time, then you need to just wait. It'll come to pass, but he wants us to let go of the expectations. He says it's not faith. So, and it brings about disappointment, frustration, doubt, and anger, which I'm sure you've all experienced at one point or another.
Right. Now, I think that's what I believe what he's showing there about the military tribunals or whatever is something that will happen.
Yes.
But it's interesting that he brought that with that word.
Yes.
Don't put it on your time scale, and don't put demands on me that I'm doing this. Just believe that.
Right. And now, just because he's telling you this doesn't mean it's going to take a long time and you should be depressed.
No, it doesn't mean that at all.
It might take a long time.
It may.
But that's not, you can't assume that either and then become all upset that you think it's going to take forever. Just believe his word and keep looking forward to the good things that he's promised.
That's right.
That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe just an explanation again for the prophetic. I know we've gone through this a couple of times, but it's something that people need to know. So God takes a prophet and shows him something that's out of time. It's not within the framework of time. And so he takes the person there and he shows him what he wants to show him, and then puts him back in time. And the prophet quite often believes, because he's just seen this, it's going to happen right then. Mm-hmm. And he comes back all excited about what's going to happen shortly. And then it doesn't happen shortly. You don't see it happen for maybe a year or longer. It's a lot of the prophets in the Bible waited 400-500 years. They were long gone, but when their prophetic words came to fruition. So that's just something to keep in mind. And when you hear a prophet give a time, if it comes directly from the Lord, he does do that sometimes. Mm-hmm. He absolutely does.
He does.
But a lot of times, that's one of the more difficult aspects of prophecy is getting that timing right. So
right. Yep.
So that's just a sidebar. So anyway, Jesus loves you so much. He wants you to know what's going on, and he wants you to be in faith. And so keep your eyes on him, and not what's going on or what you expect or any of that stuff. Keep your eyes on him. He's good. Mm-hmm. He's going to do what he says he's going to do.
Amen.
Did you know that there are over 40 million people in slavery against their will today, and that over 99% of these people are female, women, and girls?
Most of these women and girls have no life or job skills, and they desperately need assistance. Destiny Road partners with organizations in the U.S. and in other nations that assist these trafficked victims in prevention programs, outreach, safe houses, counseling, and health, encountering the love of Jesus Christ, vocational training, and economic empowerment. Just one of our partners has rescued over 500 women in the Asia Pacific area, which is home to over 70% of trafficked victims. Many of these women and children become born again when they experience the love of Jesus Christ through their rescuers, and their lives are never the same. Your purchase from Destiny Road helps these rescued and at-risk individuals continue to make an honorable living. Please visit www.destinyroadstore.com for more information. Thank you and God bless.